Hi, we're the Positive Image Project. I'm Denise Lewis.
And I'm Flo Larger.
I'm a qualified social worker, and we've written a book called Black Children in Care, looking at their health, hair and skin.
And today we're going to tell you a little bit about us, who we are, what we do, and why we essentially wrote the book in the first place.
Well, one of the reasons why we wrote the book, because as a social worker, I worked in the fostering team. A lot of my carers would come to me and say, Denise, I really don't know how to do her hair. I've got a little black girl in placement. How do I plait her hair? She's got sickle cell. What is it? She's asking for plantain. How do I cook it and where do I get it from? There were so many questions that she was asking me, that my foster carers were asking me, that I thought, why not write a book about it?
So what we're going to do, this little short show, is explain to you the contents we have in the book, why we've written them, and how our book can be used as a powerful resource for foster carers, local authorities, and all those working with children in care.
My foster carers would come to me and say, Denise, I've got a black child in placement. I really don't know how to do her hair. What do I put on her skin? Does she need sunblock? What food should I cook her? The list is endless. And I thought, why not write a book about black children in care, looking at their health, hair and skin, to give foster carers the information, but also to empower the black and mixed heritage child who's placed in placement with the foster carer.
I think one of the questions we asked ourselves is, why is the need for the book? Denise has already illustrated the fact that the issues came from her work. But if we look at statistically, we have roughly 70,000 children within the care system. 1 in 6 are black or mixed heritage, 9% are black and 7% are mixed heritage. That's an awfully high number statistically, given the fact that we are actually only 3.3% of the population. So clearly there is a need, there is an issue, and it has to be addressed. The former Home Education Secretary, Michael Gove, gave credence to Clause 2, which he's now removed. And Clause 2 actually stated that there had to be due consideration given to religion, race and the culture. This is clearly very important in terms of adoption and fostering. And with the removal of this, we ask ourselves, if you're going to adopt or foster a child, a black child, what are the issues that come up?
Some of the issues that come up when you foster or adopt a black child are issues around identity, issues around hair care, issues around skincare. One of the experiences that we've had while promoting the book is that we've had many black and mixed heritage children come to us and say, why wasn't this book written before? We're lost without this book. We appreciate this book. And one of the things that's wonderful is that the book has actually been reviewed by black and mixed heritage children who are actually in care now. We're desperate for some critique, we're desperate for some criticisms, but they just won't give us any because they think the book is absolutely fantastic. It covers so many different topics around sickle cell, identity, heritage, culture. We have recipes for Caribbean and African food. Sometimes people ask the question, well, why have you got recipes in there? The reason why we've got recipes, I decided to do recipes, was because we had a little Jamaican girl whose mother was detained at the airport. She had to be placed with a white carer. The white carer called me and said, Denise, she won't have breakfast. She just won't eat breakfast. When I spoke to the little girl, she wanted something called cornmeal porridge, which is something that my Jamaican mother gave me as a child, and I understood why she wanted that. It reminded her of home. It made her feel warm. She could identify with it. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to put it in the book. I'm going to put these Caribbean and African recipes in the book so that children can identify with it and also feel more at home when they're placed away from their family environment. One of the things I really did want to raise also is the fact that there is a lack of black and mixed families coming forward to foster and adopt black children and mixed heritage children.
But I think the question we should ask is, why are they not coming forward? What is it? What are the issues? What questions would you raise in terms of, is it what do I need to do? Do I need to be a particular type of person? Do I need to have a certain salary? There are lots of issues and questions that become myths. Now, what we're trying to do through our book is actually debunk those myths, so that find out, yes, we've got children who need fostering. Yes, you can foster, you can adopt. What do you need to do? And through the course of the book and what we're talking about, we hope that we can actually give information that will address that.
I mean, one of the things you do have to do to foster is you've got to go on a course, you've got to fill out an application form, you've got to do it can be quite intensive and it can be quite intrusive. So there's the references that you need to provide. Social worker comes into your home, but builds up a really positive relationship with you and your family. Both you, your husband has to agree with it. You could be in a same-sex partnership. Perfectly fine to adopt. Single parents can adopt. You have to have a bedroom for the child. You have to want the child.
Oh, definitely.
That's what's really, really important, to give a child a home. A child who's vulnerable, a child who needs a home, a child who is looking for comfort and for someone to care for them because they've been taken away from their own environment for whatever reason. It's not the fault of the child under any circumstances.
And I think you raise a very good point, Denise, in terms of how many of you out there, when you're in a different situation, how do you feel confident? Do you feel sort of when you're not in a situation that you're used to? And that's a very big thing with identity, and that's an issue that we actually are addressing in terms of identity. We say, okay, what is important when you're fostering a child who's in cross-cultural placements? What needs to be done? How do you address identity? Where can you? Is there information? And one of the things that has come up is that we've seen lots of carers have come to us and said, well, look, I don't know where to begin. Well, the local library. Local schools, we have museums. And these are very small things, but in terms of supporting the child, they're actually quite fundamental. Now, self-esteem is extremely important. So in terms of reading, in terms of sharing time with the child, doing things that you might think, oh, I've never done that. Well, immerse yourself in what they do, find out what they're about, and understand what you can do to support. It's a family thing, it's a joint thing together. So it's not just I'm fostering this child and I think, oh, I'll leave that child there. No, it's involve yourself, make the child feel like this is a family, and that's what it's about, bringing the child into a family.
One of the things I did want to talk about today was an experience that I had recently in Brighton. So I was there promoting the book and also selling the book. And whilst I was there, a white lady came over to the stall, and she actually said to me that she has a mixed heritage son who was 5 years old. But he came to her and said, Mum, I don't want to be brown. I don't want to have curly hair. I want to be blonde and blue-eyed like you. She was quite tearful and quite emotional about it, and explained to me that at school the boy had been bullied by other children and said that his skin was brown and muddy and his hair was awfully curly and they didn't like it. One of the things I recommended for her in terms of his identity was a book here. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's called I Love My Hair.
Fabulous.
It's a wonderful book, and it's about a little black girl who loves her hair. She likes it because it's curly. She likes it because it's plaited. She likes it when it's wet. She likes it when it's dry. And I thought if this would be a wonderful book for her to introduce her son to, so that he can love the two races that he is. So he's half black and he's half white, and his skin has come out brown. He's got beautiful curly hair, but he didn't like that. And it's about him looking at himself in the mirror and loving what he saw, and not wanting to be somebody else because he's been teased at school about it. So we talk about those kinds of things within the book, about self-esteem, about the importance of having positive images of people that look like you around the house. I mean, it might sound a little bit controversial, but one of the things that I look at when I look at the television is I see loads of advertisements with white people selling Colgate or different types of families selling all sorts of different things. And sometimes I look and think, I want to be able to be on television and people to identify with me and say, yes, I use Colgate, I use soap powder, but you never get to see that. And I think, again, for her son, he couldn't identify with other people because he didn't see them on the television, he didn't see them in his house, on his bedroom wall. Even the books that his mum gave to him mainly had white characters in that. So one of the things I really encouraged her to do was just to have images of people that look like him around his bedroom, in the household, and to get books of children, positive images of children that look like him, so that even if he is teased, he's got the strength to say, no, I love who I am and I love what I look like.
And I think that's a very important point because both of us are mothers. And one day I was with my son shopping and we were looking up just buying shoes. And he said, Mum, but I buy shoes. Why aren't there any adverts of me? Why am I not reflected? And that's very important that, it is important that the child sees reflections of themselves within society. I think many a time we have to deal with it, and for the child, it's about how am I actually going to navigate this, because I don't see images of myself, and the images or views that are put out are somewhat, can be stereotypical. You know, it would be nice to think that, you know, not all black children are sort of going to be going into crime. Not of them, you know, they will, and there are a lot of them who are succeeding. But it's also about showing the child that they can do well. Although the title says Black Children in Care, we have been at conferences and I've had a parent come to me to say, look, I've got my granddaughter, she's 4, I'd like to buy the book for her because it has positive images of black children in there. You know, there are very few books mainstream, they are out there, but it's very hard to find. So what we're doing is actually giving the books to parents, say, look, fair enough, sit down and talk with your child, you know, show them the image so that they can see that there's nothing wrong with being black. And that's also a very, it has the potential to be quite damaging. So in terms of self-esteem, in terms of confidence, especially when they go to school, you know, how do you address these issues? What do they need to do? And the book also focuses on exercise, you know, do things together as a family. When we talk about health and diet, traditionally, culturally, I'm Nigerian, and although I was raised here, a lot of the foods I'm eating at home are traditionally, you know, West African. You know, that we have to look at things like obesity, we have to look at things like diet, we have to look at things like carbohydrates. You know, these are the diets that the children are being fed. However, it's not necessarily what they're used to. As Denise quite rightly pointed out, the incident whereby the child came from the Caribbean, she's used to cornmeal, you know, traditional sort of Jamaican, Caribbean foods, which are rich in vitamins, high in potassium, and also are good for their health.
I mean, one of the other things I did want to raise is sickle cell and black children in care. We were slapped on the wrist a little bit because we decided to do one page on sickle cell, the black child in care and sickle cell. We had to get an official logo from the Sickle Cell Society in London, and they looked at the book and thought the book was fantastic, but they said to us, we need to have more than one page on sickle cell within the book. So now we've got 3 to 4 pages on sickle cell. It's really, really important that foster carers and adoptive of black children who may have sickle cell have this kind of information. So we've got several pages on sickle cell within the book. So we look at the health, the hair, and the skin of black children. So it's looking at children in a holistic way. It's not just about the fact that black children are in care. We need to look at their health, hair, and their hair and their skin. There's a whole range of things that we look at. As Flo has already said, we look at exercise, we look at identity, we do look at hair, we look at skincare, we look at different types of food.
I think one of the issues that we picked up in the book, we were looking at there's an experiment which I believe was conducted by, it's a Clark-done experiment, and although it was conducted many years ago, some of the issues that were raised are still prevalent today. And in the experiment, you know, there's a group of children, black children, and they were given a white doll and a black doll. And to say why identity is quite important, because subliminally, messages from around us can have an effect on the way we actually address ourselves. So within the experiment, one of the questions posed was, you know, what do you, pick which doll you think looks the best. You know, and the child picked the sort of blue-eyed blonde, which, you know, on its own, you know, is actually quite sad. But when you look at it along the bigger picture, you think, where is that taking us? So the book actually, although it says it's about black children care, health, hair and skin, we cover a broad range of issues. We cover issues that we look at in terms of what is it that can affect the child, and what do I need to do? How do I address this? So as Denise said, it's covered through many, many issues. So books, we've only just scratched the surface, really only just scratched the surface. But I think one of the questions we'd have to ask is, why the need for the book? You know, is there a need for this book? I think the answer is a definite yes.
Oh, it's a definite yes, and we're getting this yes from children in care themselves. And that's why we will continue to push the book forward, because it's not academics who are saying it, it's not professors who are saying it, it's children in care who are saying, we need this book, and we need this book now. We needed it yesterday, we needed it last year, we needed it 10 years ago, we needed it even 20 years ago. But I think Flo and I decided to write this book, and we're very proud of this book because we know it's going to be helping a lot of foster carers, adopters, and it's also going to be empowering black children and mixed heritage children who are placed in care away from their homes, possibly.
I think it's about making a difference. And the question is, you say, if I foster, am I making a difference? And yes, you fostering will make that difference. However, and I think, I'm going to have a bit of a little dig at the, some local authorities. It's about, by all means, foster and encourage fostering to come forward, but to ensure, sort of that the correct information is, where are the resources? Yes, there are probably good training manuals, but in terms of having specific guide resources, tools to support, and that's what it's about. It's about supporting the foster care, So yes, I'd like to foster a black child. Right, what do I need? There's silence. We have a training manual here, but what do you need that's specific? My child has come with sickle cell. How do I know about it? What is eczema? How do I look at it? What is aromatherapy? So we're not preaching, but we're saying, look, as a starting point, have a look at this. I think one of the best questions was, what's cane roll? How do I do that?
Yeah.
Where do I start from?
What's wonderful is that we've got a page on that within the book, a step-by-step of how to cane roll. We haven't just got the images. We've actually got the step of how actually to cane roll the hair. And that's quite important for little black girls when as they're growing up, for their hair to look pretty and attractive like anybody else's hair. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to put a step-by-step of how to cane roll within the book, because many carers don't know how to cane roll. Some black people don't know how to cane roll. And that's one of the wonderful things about this book. It can be used for black carers and white carers. Just because me as a black person, I haven't got all the information and all the knowledge about my community, and I'm learning new things about myself all the time. So this book isn't just for white foster carers or white adopters. This is for everyone. If you're an Asian person who fosters or adopt, if you're a black person who fosters and adopt, a white foster, a carer or an adopter of black children, the information is within this book, and it's so holistic because we cover many, many areas. I mean, one of the future projects that we're going to be doing is several other books about traveller children, about Muslim children, about disabled children, all in the same kind of format as this, which is user-friendly and very empowering tool. I mean, what we're looking to create better outcomes for children. I know it's one of the terms that the government is using now, but that is really what we're looking for. And this is exactly what children are saying and young people are saying from us.
Definitely.
With this tool, with this resource, we will be creating better outcomes, and that's what we want.
I mean, when we were on the journey, that's how to explain it, we were, and I know that there are many famous individuals who are out there, and we have to say massive thank you to Lem Cisse, who we chased, I'm sorry to say, we chased for quite a while, but we found him and he was fantastic. Obviously, Lem himself, quite openly talks about his time being in care. But what he actually did do was actually write the foreword to our book. It's a very, very moving forward, and without which we are so grateful for, very, very grateful for. He talks about giving the child wings, and that's what we feel the book does. It gives the child wings to travel, to learn, to fly.
Lem Cisse is a fantastic poet, and we are very, very proud that he used his time to do our foreword for the book. This says to me how important the book is. He's actually experienced fostering within a cross-cultural placement. A cross-cultural placement is when a black or mixed heritage child or a different race or culture of person is fostered by somebody or adopted by somebody of a different race and culture. So Lem Cisse is a young black boy from Eritrea.
That's right, yes.
And he was fostered by a white English family over a period of a few years. It was there that he experienced issues around his identity, his race, and his religion, and wrote a wonderful foreword for us in terms of foster carers who have children in cross-cultural placements, going to shops to find out about skincare, going into barber shops to cut a young black boy's hair, going into the local Jamaican grocery shops to buy plantain and seasoning for chicken or whatever whatever you've decided to cook for the child. And those are the kind of things that we decided that were important for the book.
But what he illustrates very well in the book is that his experiences were growing up as a boy maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago. And literally the same things he's written about can still be applied today. So it's a question of, when we suffer, there's a skin condition of eczema. Well, on a black skin, on white skin, it comes up as red patches. Well, it wouldn't. Yet it's on the black skin, it comes up as grey, and but you have to identify. Now, if you're not aware of what it looks like on different colour skins, how will you know? So it's about that's something quite small, but in terms of empowering a foster carer, it's quite huge, because then you instantly know, oh, something's not wrong, I know what to do. In terms of how do we moisture our skin? Why do we moisture our skin? When we go swimming, as a child, I used to swim a lot, and I was forever, greasing my skin to the point that it was shining. Well, there's a reason, because my skin gets dry. But I've used, moisturising creams. There are stories that we've heard that are actually quite sad. But it's about knowing, well, where can I get them from? What type of creams? Shea butter, cocoa butter, olive oil, almond oil. These are really good for our skin, and it's not just about stopping it being dry. It's actually good for our skin. So when we go swimming, oil the skin afterwards. Shower down, wash the skin afterwards. And also, what happens to our hair? When we're actually we're swimming. Well, we sort of part the hair, we oil it, we grease it. That time of sitting down and having your hair done is actually quite is a bonding time between a mother and child. So we sit there. Then you have the discussion, and you get that closeness. And that's what we're trying to illustrate. These are things that can be done. This is what I do. This is what was done to me as a child. I sat with my mother between her knees, hands on elbows, having my hair done.
I mean, another example of that is a young child who went swimming with her school. So she's been instructed by her mother, when you finish swimming, you must cream your skin. Every black child knows this, if you grew up in a black household, that you must moisturise your skin after swimming, after the bath. However, this teacher said to her, I'm sorry, we can't wait for you this time. You're always fussing with your skin after swimming. We can't wait for you. This upset the child. She went onto the coach, back to school. Her skin was all white and dry. She got home. Her mother was very upset and said, why didn't you cream your skin? The child explained that the teacher said no. The parent then went up to the school and told the teacher off. Again, if the teacher was informed with this information, how important it is to moisturise the skin after swimming, after the bath, after you wash your hair, how important it is to plait it, to wash it, to learn to Kenro it. These are things that are all part of the culture, all part of our heritage and all part of our identity. These are all the things that we can identify with. So I can identify with Flo when she talks about sitting between her mother's legs and having her hair plaited, having her hair Kenroed, all ready for school on a Monday.
Definitely.
A child who's possibly placed away from that culture doesn't know that, doesn't know about how to plait her hair, doesn't know how to Kenro her hair, doesn't even know about the history of Kenro and how long we've been plaiting our hair for many years, which is a rich information for her to know about. And we also have that in the book as well. So one of the wonderful things about this book is that it covered so many things. It does cover history, culture, identity, food, exercise. I could go on and on and on. And in terms of health, as I've already mentioned, I will mention again sickle cell, because some people haven't heard of sickle cell before, and it's a blood disease that many Black, African, Caribbean, Mediterranean people have, and it's something that people haven't heard of before. And we've decided to add that within the book, because if you have a child in care and they have this sickle cell disease, it's important that you're informed about what actually happens when the child has this disease.
I mean, I think, look at it like this. Who is the book for? Anyone who is involved professionally with children in terms of social workers, local authorities, your local doctor, local hospital, teachers, parents, friends. If you know anyone who think, you know what, and that's what a lot of people have done. They say, oh, I know someone who can read the book. Can I buy this copy for them? It's about, each one teach one. So if we all make our little bit to the contribution, then we're actually working on the bigger picture. And it's about supporting that child within that cross-cultural placement.
I mean, one of the things we really want to say whilst we're here was that we really want this book to go everywhere. We want it to be in doctor surgeries. We want it to go into colleges. We want it to go into universities, all the social work departments. We want it to go into schools. We want it to go into nurseries and playgroups. It's such an informative package. It's such an informative tool that it could be used in all areas of professional life, in terms of nursery nurses, teachers, lecturers. We believe that every foster carer needs to have one. And we're not just talking about white foster carers, we're talking about foster carers of all different races. It's a book that's informative for Black people and for other races as well. And that's the reason why we wrote the book.
I mean, what we want to sort of address overall is, do you want to make a difference? As a foster carer, you can. And the question is, how? What do I need? What tools do I need? So as a resource, the book Black Children in Care covers all factors. It's just a starting point. But from there at the back, we have an extensive online resource. You know, we've listed holistically where you can get particular products. We've listed where you can buy particular books. So by no means we don't have the answer. It's not the answer, but it is just a starting point. And I think that, as with all local authorities, you know, if you don't have an established sort of resource, then any foster care, as a starting point, this book goes out as part of a training tool. It's used versatility for training, supporting and empowering.
I mean, one of the things that we want to talk about today is that we're really looking for Ofsted to take this book on board. Ofsted is an organisation that looks at the standards of children's homes, children's units, fostering placements. And one of the things that we want to look at is handing this book to Ofsted officers who can look at this book and say, well, this is the bar that we need to reach to make sure that Black children in care are well looked after in fostering units, in fostering placements, in residential units, and other residential and living arrangements for Black and mixed heritage children who are placed in the care system.
I mean, we will be having, we will be, attending conferences. We will be attending social events. So you will see us, and you will see more of us. Although we'll be quietly working in the background, we have been quite vocal in pushing the book, and we've been involved with various parliamentary committees, supporting and attending the meetings. So we're more than happy to have people come on board to talk to discuss with us. What can we do to help? How can we help? We can be contacted on positiveImageProject@hotmail.com, or we can follow us on our Facebook, which is Positive Image Project, or also on Twitter. So there are various ways we can be contacted to support what we're doing.
And our Twitter address is Positive Image P.
So thank you for taking the time. We hope we've sort of given you a flavour of what we're about, what we're trying to do, and hopefully that you'll come on board with us in terms of the book and understand where we're going with this. Thank you.
We haven't mentioned that the book is $9.99. We wish to sell it to local authorities, fostering and adoption agencies, universities, nurseries and schools. So a wide range of professionals who could use this book as a positive tool to create better outcomes and positive outcomes for the children that they work with on a daily basis.